Hi, everybody. So, we're going to talk a little bit now about how you build the model box itself. Now, one of the things you want to keep in mind is that the model box is the surround for your design. So, when you're thinking about it, you want to make sure that it follows a couple simple rules. One, it should be all black. This is mainly so it doesn't distract from whatever is inside your set, right? So you're not distracting from that art. You're framing this with a frame that is relatively simple and doesn't distract, is very clean and very functional. Now, if your theater itself is a dark gray or a different color and you want to represent that in your model box, you absolutely can, but it's not normal to do so. We usually just make that frame black and clean the same way that we have masking or legs. This also really helps someone to quickly see the scale. Often they're more familiar with the theater space than they are with the set that's going to be inside it. And it is also something that will help you to understand how big the openings in the theater are, where the visible space is, and where the placement is for the audience inside and outside of that space. So, if you're going to build something, what scale are you going to build it in? This is just a chart that has the scale across the top and the equivalent scales down so you can really see how these things fit inside each other because fractions drive me nuts. So, half-inch scale is one of the ones that we build in quite a lot. And that scale is used for anything that needs buildable or paintable detail. So, whenever you're looking at a drawing, a model, whatever you're going to do, if you need to build and paint from it, it should be in a scale of at least half inch so that you can see details and really measure and be able to figure it out from that scale. Quarter inch is also a really common scale. And as you can see, this is uh, also something that's easier to figure out because it's exactly half of half-inch scale. But this is something that we usually use as a more portable scale that can still retain a lot of good finish information. You really shouldn't paint a show off a quarter-inch scale model, but you probably could if you were built painting your own show where you had the ability to make a lot of choices for yourself. Another really common scale, once again, exactly half of that quarter-inch scale is what we call eighth-inch scale. And this is often used for basic shapes, really rough ideas, something very quick and dirty. It's very small, it's only about this big. And that allows you to have a really portable and functional thing that you can create little bits of space with. And you can have lots of options of creating little representations without getting too overly detailed because you can't get that detailed at an eighth-inch scale. It is also possible for you to use 1-inch scale. So 1-inch scale is that next scale up. And if you need additional detail or you're drafting something fine like props or a small object, you may use 1-inch scale because it's considerably more detail. The next one I'd say that we do occasionally use is 3/4 or 3/8 inch scale. So these are the two scales that happen to be right between half and one or half and half and a quarter. So that's where if I want something that's a little bit more detailed than a quarter-inch model, but I still don't want to have to carry around something as large as half-inch scale, then I might use 3/8 as a happy medium. So there are some designers which at their discretion will choose when to use that slightly bigger or smaller scale in between some of our standard European scales. So what I mean by that is, let's say, a floor elevation. It's one of the biggest surface areas that you have in your set in one painter's elevation. So although we should make that in half-inch scale, it's often really, really big to carry around in half-inch scale. Think 20 by 30 inches, like the size of a poster board. And so carrying that all the way across a floor while you're trying to make sure that you're looking very closely at it can be difficult. So if quarter-inch is too small to still see the detail that you want to see, 3/8 inch might be possible. 3/16 or 3/8 inch scale, the two lower in between ones are much more portable, but still give you a little bit of finished information. 3/16 is really too small to get any finished information from. but it can still give you a much more portable result that can still be a little bit more detailed than the 1/8 inch. The 3/16 is really about shaping and rough ideas, just like the 1/8 scale. And 3-inch scale is off on the top end, and that is really for very fine detail and things that you need to blow up. So if you need to focus in and make bigger a little portion of your set, you're going to try and use something very clear, and that would be more around the 3-inch scale. Ultimately, you as the designer are choosing which thing you're putting in which scale and why. It is assumed if you don't need to be in a bigger scale, there isn't more detail to know. So if you can't render it in the scale that you're in and you really need to render it, then you may need to change scales. So that is why drafting on a computer is much easier, because everything that you draft is essentially in full scale, and then you decide the scale later based on what you want to see and how much of it you want to see. Okay. So for this class, you're either going to build a 1/4 inch, an 1/8 inch, or 1/2 inch scale model box. Like, don't build a 1/2 inch scale model box. That's too big for this class. So really, you're going to be doing a 1/4 or an 1/8 inch model box. And you can choose to do either a black box or a main stage. It's really up to you. That basic box, however you construct it, whether you're doing an 1/8 inch box or 1/4 inch box, is going to look a little something like this. You're going to have a back and a floor for your main stage small box. And then you're going to cut out a front that's the same height. You're not going to put it all the way on the front. You're going to leave an apron on the front, and you're going to cut out the proscenium hole from inside of that. You're going to do probably something to keep that basic model box up. So you're going to have some supports or triangles to help keep it vertical. And you are also going to attach those to keep the walls square. And then you're also going to cut out and attach the 2 little wings that are in our main stage, the opening pieces. If you do our black box, you're going to have one big open floor, and then you're going to have a back and a side. And you're also going to have at least one side that you leave open. It doesn't matter if it's short side or a long side. That may be up to you on which side you'd like that to be. And therefore, you have both a black box and a main stage, and that's how you construct them. They're very basic pieces. When you're laying it out, I'm going to go through a little bit of that in detail here. And that is, if you were to take one sheet of foam core, you can actually get a black box out of this pretty easily. And what you'd probably do is you'd cut your big floor piece first. And then, however wide this is, you'd figure out how big your physical measurement needs to be, whatever this distance is in scale and whatever this distance is in scale. You'd use the shape of your whole room and then add the thickness of the foam core on all 4 sides. When you do that, go ahead and slice down all the way. So take this line and extend it all the way down and slice yourself off some extra pieces and use those pieces for the 2 sides. Then, using the same height that you've already gathered here, you can reduce the thickness by the thickness of the foam core and cut out your 2 other sides. So you can easily get a black box out of a single piece of foam core. Now, just because we're here, I'm going to show you that you can also get a mini main stage out of that same piece of foam core. So if you've already got that cut and already used that up, for your main stage, you can cut an tiny 1/8 inch scale bottom, an 1/8 inch scale back, an 1/8 inch scale front, cut the little proscenium out of it, and cut 2 support pieces. And so you can get both a large black box and a mini main stage out of the same sheet. Now, you can very much take 2 sheets and you can build a large black box. You can build a large main stage. You can build a large main stage and a mini black box to play with. You can build a large main stage and a mini main stage. It's entirely up to you. But you do have to build one box. If you're only going to build one box, I recommend that you actually build a full main stage box, right? So what I mean by that is a 1/4 inch main stage. and using that whole piece for your main stage. So then your floor is going to be one of your largest pieces. And you're going to do the same thing, cut all the way down this line, and that gives you a back and a front. And then you can cut your opening out of your front, and you can use some of these offcuts to give you the pieces that are going to go on the top and the front of your main stage. All right, so I do want to point out that I don't have any measurements on any of these models. I'm just showing you essentially how you can cut these pieces out and how you can put them together. And one of those, the reasons for that is because different theaters have different measurements. And you'll need to figure out what those measurements are and figure out what that is every time that you do a model. So you're going to take your main stage or your black box and you're going to figure out what that size is. So in our next segment of this video, I'm going to show you exactly how to use those measurements to make a model box. And the actual model box that we're going to make together is a 1/4 inch scale main stage model box. And so that I call that a full size model box because, or main stage, because it's not one of the mini ones. Okay. All right. I'm going to go get that set up.